Hello and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Gar Whaley. I'm the co-founder of Align Technology Solutions. We're an MSP based here in Washington, D.C. And joining me today is Reed Johnston. He's the founder of TechGen, which is an MSP based in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Reed and I belong to the same IT peer group. It's a mastermind group of MSPs that don't compete geographically. So when we're in this meeting, we're always sharing ideas about teams. We talk about best practices and tips and tricks that we use and share with clients. And Microsoft's always releasing new features. So we thought today we'd share 7 cool and sometimes overlooked features in Microsoft Teams that are specifically related to meetings. As we go through the webinar here, please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A button below, and we'll try to answer them either as we go through or at the end. We'll be respectful of your time and promise to keep this to 30 minutes or less as advertised. And just full disclosure, Reed and I are in the GoToWebinar meeting, but we're also in a Teams meeting between ourselves so that Reed can share his screen and show you some of these great features. So Reed, let's jump right in with presenter modes. Can you share your screen and talk a little bit about presenter modes?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me change my camera here into Teams. So presenter mode is a really neat feature of Microsoft Teams. When we're going to share our screen, the first thing we think about is going up to the share menu here. But at the top, there's this presenter mode section. And when I click presenter mode, it lets me select standout to put my video in front of what I'm sharing, lets me do side by side, or it lets me do reporter. So I'm going to click standout and I'm going to share my screen. And this will take a second to update here. But what you're going to see once it updates, and it's a little bit hard to see because it's a little video there, but you're going to see my video superimposed over what I'm sharing within Teams. And I can increase the size of my video. I can move it to the side or to the other side. And if I go to the very top of the screen, I have the options again where I can select side by side, changes the view. Takes a second, but there it goes. And I can select reporter, where it looks like on a TV station, like I'm doing the weather. Pretty cool.
WKRP. So that's neat. So transition that, if you could, into another feature we use a lot in our meetings, which is virtual whiteboard.
Yeah. So the virtual whiteboard, again, I go back into my Teams meeting. I'm going to click share. And rather than share my screen, I've got Microsoft Whiteboard right below. So when I click on that, it takes a second now. It's going to open up an infinite canvas where all of the participants of the Teams meeting can draw and annotate and put objects on a screen. So what I've got here is I've got a whiteboard that we had started beforehand, but you can see I've got drawing options. I can draw, and Gar, you should be able to draw too.
Yeah,
I can click on, there you are. Yeah. I can click on notes. I can put a note on the screen. I can type into that note, change the size. You can share this whiteboard with anybody in your organization, and depending on your security settings, you can also share it outside of your organization. So it's pretty neat.
So Reed, just a quick note, if you want, you can put your camera back in GoToWebinar from.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Because it might be easier to see.
Yeah, that way you can see me. There we go.
We definitely want to see you, big and bold. So next one is similar to this, which is collaborative annotations.
Yeah, so this is an interesting one. Collaborative annotations allow you to share your screen and have all the participants drawing on it. So I'm going to do that. Just a second here. Let me end this, go down to my desktop, and I'm going to share my screen again. Now we're looking at my desktop. I'm going to put this PowerPoint on my desktop. Now at the top, I've got an option where I can turn on Start Annotations. So I'm going to do that. Takes a second. Typical Microsoft Teams. Now at the top, I have the same objects that we saw in the whiteboard. So I can draw, I can circle Gar. Gar, you should be able to do that too. Yeah, there's your arrow. I've
Yeah,
got
so what
a
I'll do is I'll circle your face. That's me.
I've got a highlighter, I've got a laser pointer. So we can collaboratively annotate what I'm looking at on my screen. The trouble is though, when we're in this mode, I can't do anything with my screen. So I have to actually go up to the top and turn off annotations in order to actually edit the content of my application or to change what I'm doing on my screen. So that's a little gotcha with the annotations there.
So just to make sure that's clear, you're locked in that until you turn off annotations. So if you need to go to another screen, you have to turn off annotations first, correct?
Yep, that's correct. It's by going up to the top of your screen here and then clicking that start or stop annotations. Exactly.
But as the not as the presenter in the Teams meeting, I don't have that restriction.
Right. Yeah, you can do whatever you want as a participant.
Cool,
Absolutely.
cool, cool, cool. So next one is one that's really great. It's called PowerPoint Live Presentation. And most people, myself included, used to share a PowerPoint. I would open PowerPoint and I would share one of my monitors that the PowerPoint was on. But
Kind
there's
of like that.
relatively newer feature where you can do PowerPoint live presentation. So show us how to do that.
Yep. So again, in my Teams meeting, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen because that's how we showed that PowerPoint on my screen there. But when I hit share again, if I scroll down a little farther below the whiteboard, I've got PowerPoint Live. Now these are examples of PowerPoint presentations that I've shared in OneDrive or Teams or SharePoint. And when I click on one of those items, what it does is it actually pushes that out to all of the Teams participants. And me, as the host, I see the presenter view within PowerPoint. So now, if I have any pop-ups that show up on my screen, nobody sees that because I'm not actually sharing my screen. Another neat feature is there's this private view button at the top. When you're using PowerPoint Live, your participants can advance the slides on their own screen ahead of you. And when
So
I click
Reed,
on, yeah,
on my screen, I'm seeing that, and you can see, well, you've turned it off.
yeah,
You
sorry
got me.
about that.
That's all
I
right.
gotcha.
I was trying to advance it, but Reed put on private view, so I can't advance it.
Yep, so when I turn on private view, now you can't. And now I can advance my slides here on this end. Everybody sees what I'm looking at. And I've got the same laser pointer I can draw on the slides, and I can go backwards and forwards, but you can't take over.
Yeah, so just to clarify that a little bit, because Reed is showing the entire PowerPoint, all I'm seeing on my side in Teams is the actual slide. I don't see the annotation buttons. I just see the slide because
Yep.
he's presenting.
And I've got previews down here of my other slides. So it's really nice for a presenter. The participants then, they're able to focus on the content. That's the key.
All right, so if you stop presenting there, next thing we wanted to talk about, which we use quite a bit, is meeting recap. Show us a little bit about meeting recap.
Yeah, absolutely. So what a meeting recap is it's a summary of what happened in that meeting from Teams itself. So the way I can open that up is I'm going to go into my Teams client on another screen here so you don't see everything. But I'm going to open up one of our meetings that we have every day, which is a daily huddle. So I went into my calendar, I clicked on calendar, I found that daily huddle. And when I open that up, it shows the meeting recap. Now, what the meeting recap does is it shows a recording of the meeting, shows a transcript of the meeting. If we were using the whiteboard in the meeting, it would be there as well. It'll also show you who the participants were and any files that might have been shared during that meeting. So the really nice feature of the meeting recap is if I was invited to a meeting but I couldn't join it, later in the day, the next day, I could go into my calendar, click on that meeting and see the meeting recap and watch the recording and look at the content, just like I was there.
So Reed, quick question just came in from, looks like John. I don't know if you can answer this, but if you're external, so you and I are not in the same company, can I still look at the meeting recap? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I believe you can, as long as you're an invitee of that meeting. So I think the
Okay.
answer is yes there. Yep.
Cool, cool, cool. All right, so the next one we want to talk about is something that we all did before this meeting started and is very important, which is how do you mute notifications?
Yeah, so that's a big one, because if you're in a meeting and you're sharing your screen, you don't want to see all those little pop-ups, those little bubbles down in the corner. So there's a couple of ways to do that. The first way is you can click on this More button. And if we go down to the bottom here, I've got an option that says Allow Notifications. Right now, I've got them turned off. So if I click Allow and somebody sends me a message, if I'm sharing my screen, people are going to see that pop up. So I can easily click Mute Notifications here. The other way that we can deal with it is by, let me go into here again, and I can click on, I'm going to go into my team, click on my name at the top, and I can go down to Manage Account. And when I'm in Manage Account, this lets me select all the settings for my Microsoft Teams. I can go into Notifications, and then I can scroll down to Meetings and Calls, click Edit, and this is where I can automatically, by turning this on, have my notifications be muted whenever I'm going into a meeting. That way nobody can send me messages, distract me when I'm in a meeting. Don't have to think about it.
Well, to be clear, they can still send you messages. You just
Oh yeah,
won't get
I
the
just won't
alert.
see them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I just won't see them.
and the people that are engaged in your meeting won't hear those either.
Absolutely right.
So we use that. I use that on every meeting. So the number 7, but maybe not the last. Maybe we'll go for 8 since we're a little bit ahead of schedule. But for number 7, I know is your favorite, Reed, because you're a gadget guy. So that is the Microsoft Presenter Wireless Remote. So what is that?
So that's this guy. Can you see me
Yep.
showing that in the camera? A little remote. You can pick these up on Amazon or at Best Buy or any other store. Got some buttons, and they let you interact with Teams without needing to worry about your keyboard or your mouse. So one thing that you can do is you can push the mute button, and the little light turns red, and you can still hear me because we're in GoToMeeting. But
I did see the mic in the meeting get muted when you did that.
Yeah, right there. It'll mute the mic, which is a really nice feature. So if you're in a meeting and you're talking and you're done, mute yourself, and then all the background noise that might be going on, no one will hear that. The other neat feature, this Teams button, if I hold that down, it will raise my hand. So if you're in a meeting with a bunch of people, you wanna chime in, you just hold that down, raise your hand, hold it again, and it will lower your hand. So that's a pretty neat feature. A couple of other buttons that are on here. The arrows let me advance and go backwards when I'm doing a PowerPoint Live presentation. And then there's a little laser pointer that what it really does is it moves your arrow around the screen. But if you're actually sharing content, it'll show a red little dot. But see, I'm moving my hand and it's moving my mouse. Pretty cool. So yeah, you can pick these up. Best Buy, pretty new. It works with Teams. It also works with Zoom. I found that out the other day.
Oh, that's interesting. What does something like that cost?
$70, at least right now.
So when you're using that, Reed, have you been in a meeting where you didn't have to touch your keyboard or your mouse and you just sat back with that remote and was fully engaged in the meeting?
Yep, you can sit back, hold it in your hand, and then just mute, unmute, raise your hand. There it goes. Great. Lower your hand. Yep, you can be right in the meeting. Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so we're ahead of schedule here. So we did put a number 8 in there. We're going to go to 8, and this one's really interesting, especially if you have a company that an external company, it's not your company, that you have meetings with and interact with frequently, that it makes sense to do what is referred to as shared channels for external users. Full disclosure to the audience that this one requires some admin setup, but your help desk or your MSP can do this for you. But tell us about shared channels.
Yeah, So shared channels are really neat. Normally within Microsoft Teams, if I want to collaborate with another organization, I go into Teams, I've got all my company's teams right here. I have to click on my company name at the top, and I have to pick one of these other teams that I'm part of. When I do that, it switches my whole Teams environment over to their account for me to access one or a couple of different channels. What a shared channel lets you do is it lets you have that shared channel right within your tenant. So here we have a digital marketing team. I created a shared channel called Content Writer. It's got this little picture next to it that identifies that it's a shared channel. And then we have people outside of our organization invited to this channel. So when they participate, they're in their team. They don't have to switch over to ours, and we're able to stay within our team. So this is a really neat feature, so you don't have to keep flipping back and forth right here.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have that set up between our companies and it works very well, I would say.
Yep, pretty cool.
So Reeds, that was some good things. We got through 8 of those. We have a number of questions here from the audience. Let's see, it looks like the first one is one I think we're aligned on, but we'll see how you answer it and how I answer it. So for additional information or to learn more about Teams, and I don't think it's specific to meetings and Teams, just Teams in general, what's a good place to go to look for that information or get that information?
Yeah, so I always like to start at the source. Microsoft Teams, let's go to Microsoft and look at the information there. They have a bunch of resources, including training materials, handouts, and other things that can be shared with team members in your organization. You can always go to YouTube and other places, but I like to go to the source.
That's what I always say too. When clients ask, where's the best place to get training? I say, go to Microsoft. They got the best training. And when we send out the email with this recording and we put it in our blogs, we'll put a link in there to the website at Microsoft. Okay, another question came in, Reed, pretty good one, is Together Mode. What is Together Mode?
Yeah, so Together Mode, when I am in my meeting in Teams here, if I go under the More screen, you'll see there's a Together Mode option. Together Mode puts everybody on the screen in an organized spot. So it takes a little while to set up, but Microsoft has all these different scenes. So you can have everybody around a table, you can have everybody looking like they're in a classroom. And Gar, it's just you and me in here right now. But if there were a bunch of people in this meeting, they'd be sitting in those little chairs. We wouldn't see our backgrounds here. They'd be sitting in those little chairs, and everybody would be looking like they're in the same spot, rather than when you've got a bunch of video bubbles, they can be organized in different ways for different people. It's supposed to help bring everybody together a little bit more.
Yeah, that's a neat feature, but generally speaking, at ATS, we don't really use it too much, but it's a nice to have. So I can't remember. I think that was Bill that asked that question, but thanks for that question. So actually another question from Carrie, I believe, which is, Reed, if you could really quick review the meeting recap feature again. How do you set that up?
Yeah, so the meeting recap is part of every meeting that you create. So you send out an invite to your participants. They can click on the join meeting link. It joins the meeting in Teams. To get into the meeting recap, what you're going to want to do is go into the calendar button in Microsoft Teams, find your meeting, and click it to open it. And when it opens, after the meeting has occurred, you're going to see the meeting recap. So it's already there.
Not to put you on the spot, but could you show that real quick?
I could. Yeah, let me go in there. I'm going to go right here. Here I'm in my Teams, right?
Yep.
Go into calendar. Takes a second, of course. I'm going to scroll up to the top. We've got a daily huddle. I click on that. I click open. Takes me right into the meeting recap right there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good. Hopefully that answered it for Carrie. We got another question here from Dave. What are breakout rooms?
Yeah,
The
so breakout rooms
question,
are,
the
oh,
specific
sorry.
question is, Zoom has breakout rooms, does Teams?
Yes, Teams has breakout rooms. So it's a newer feature for Teams. Zoom has had it for quite a while, but at the top here, there's a rooms button. When I click on that, it's going to give me some different options of automatically pushing people out into rooms randomly, or I can choose who is going to be in what room. And the reason you'd have a breakout room is you've got a meeting with 10 or 15 people. You want to have some conversations about particular topics and then bring it back to the group. So you can start the breakout room, everybody goes, they're in their own little meetings, and then the organizer of the meeting can call everybody back into the main meeting like we are here. So yeah, rooms
So
button.
before you change, Reed, what do you know the limitation? How many
I
rooms?
believe it's 50 rooms.
50 rooms. That's a lot
Yeah,
of rooms.
it's a lot of rooms. You can have a lot of people in there.
Yeah. All right. So a couple more questions here. Matt he um, saw the meeting recap and was wondering how you turn on recording, or is recording turned on automatically?
Good question. So we're in our meeting here. I can go up to this more button and I can click start recording. So right out of the gate, there's not automatic recording. When you're in your meeting, you have to start recording. But after you send that meeting invite out to your participants, before the meeting starts, you are able to go into that invite, go into the meeting options, and tell it to automatically start recording so that you don't have to remember to do that for every meeting. Generally, my preference is I'll start it manually, but for our daily huddles and things, we always have those record automatically so that we don't have to remember to do that every morning.
So so I can understand the business case there. For your daily huddles, you have that meeting set up to automatically record.
Yep,
But for other meetings, ad hoc meetings, that's not scheduled, but you turn on recording the way you
yep,
just showed us.
yep, do it
So you can do
manually.
both.
Yep.
Great. All right, two or three more. Looks like, can you do transcription?
Yeah, you probably saw that right below there. The start recording is for the video and the content. The transcription lets you just start a transcription too, where it's not going to record the video, not record what you're sharing. The benefit of the transcription is you can see it live while it's transcribing, but then after, when you're looking at the meeting recap, you can just see the audio transcription as well.
So another one just came in from Caroline. How reliable is a meeting recap? Oh, this is a good one. How reliable is a meeting recap transcription? Thinking of this in relation to board minute recordings.
Yeah.
So when she sends it, I guess when she sends this out to her board, how reliable is it?
I think the big thing that's important is the audio quality of the participants. I've found with the recordings and the transcriptions, it's pretty accurate as long as people aren't talking over each other and as long as their audio is good. I use a headset most of the time to make sure my audio is good, but Gar, you sound great with your webcam. So I think that's the important part, as long as you're
Uh,
not talking over people.
full disclosure, which we're doing a good job of today, but generally when Reed and I meet, we're not doing a good job. I actually have, this is not my webcam, this is a professional speaker, but that's a great question, Caroline. Thanks for asking that. That's a good real world example. So, okay, I think the last question that I see in here is similar, which is what is live caption?
Yeah, so live caption is something you can turn on. It's right above the start recording. What that's going to do is as people are talking, it's going to show a caption at the bottom. And the participants can actually select the language that they want. But the value of the live captions allows you to have an environment where maybe you can't hear very well, or maybe you can't hear, but you can see the transcription of the audio live. The difference there is with live captions, those aren't recorded. So you'd have to be starting transcription and starting recording in order for the captions to be recorded.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a very good point, Reed.
Mhm.
All right, so it looks like that's all the questions. We're 4 minutes ahead of schedule. I promised to keep it to less than 30. So Reed, thanks so much for sharing these tips and helpful information. I hope everyone found it as helpful as I did. Thanks for taking some time to join us today. We'll send out, as I said, a video, email, and a link to our blog. Reed, any final thoughts?
Really, the only thing is Teams is really powerful and feature rich. Microsoft keeps adding features all the time, so definitely keep checking back. New things are coming out all the time. Teams is a great solution for organizations to collaborate.
In fact, Reed, I saw one that maybe we're going to have to do a separate chat on that was not there last week, called the Speaker Coach.
Yep,
So we could talk about that in the next webinar.
you
Anyways,
bet.
thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.